Welcome, everyone, to Notes of Success. I'm your host, Steve Reynoso, and I'm here to take you on a journey that goes beyond the highlight reels and the headlines. Here, we're digging deep into the stories, struggles, and strategies of entrepreneurs, leaders, and dreamers from all walks of life. Every episode, we'll sit down with someone whose success isn't just in what they've achieved, but in how they've defined it for themselves. Today's guest is someone whose journey proves that success is never one size fits all. From humble beginnings to remarkable achievements, they found their own way through the challenges and turned their passions into something that impacts lives. If you ever wonder how ordinary people create extraordinary success, this episode's for you. I want to thank you guys for joining me and being a part of this journey. I'm excited for what's to come. This is only episode 1, and stay tuned for more. A little bit about what you do.
About me?
Yeah, I'm going to start over here, far left side with George.
Okay, so my name is George. I run a podcast on YouTube, and I have some pretty interesting guests, I'd like to think, ranging from former criminals, YouTubers, professors, doctors, former Navy SEALs, so on and so forth. And one of my past guests includes the guy next to me, who is going to introduce himself right now.
Of course. Thanks for having me, G.
Oh, no.
What's happening? We did first one was pretty dope. Hear me good?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
We're doing second one. Drove up to New Jersey. Figured the first one was pretty dope, so we gotta do second time. Maybe make it a little longer. One camera. Maybe that's a little more clear than my bedroom. A little studio.
Yeah.
With no lighting. So thank you for having us. I'm
Man,
excited, man.
Major
It's
upgrade.
a pleasure having you. Thank you for taking the time out today. We're just going to take the time to learn a little bit more about you and what you've done. I mean, you're a young man. You're 21, right?
21.
And you've already accomplished a lot of things. I mean, to see you be so young and do what you've done, it's insane. I mean, you're inspiring kids all over. You see George inspiring.
Yeah.
I'm a little older than you, and I'm inspired by what you're doing. So do you mind explaining, like, how you started off and what made you even start off? Let's start off with that. What made you get interested in, like, social media to begin with?
For sure. Social media, you have to understand how powerful this tool is. I just met you randomly
Yeah.
because of a car. Now we're in this huge ass studio.
Yeah. You never know where things are going to lead.
We didn't
Yeah.
FaceTime, we texted. Maybe both of us didn't have the most time at once to decide, when to do this, but now we're here. We already got into a little heated argument, or a little heated back and forth about what we're complaining about. Seems like we kind of share some of the same opinions, but yeah, you need to immediately start looking at people that you don't like, and you need to start removing the things that they're doing and make sure you don't do that. And then you need to immediately locate people who have what you want or do what you want. You need to start understanding what it is that they're doing it, how they're doing it. And with social media, I will absolutely say this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You need to use it because there's not really been anything like this. With social media, like I said, DMs are sorted from highest to lowest. So once I met one person, you started speaking to another people, started speaking to more people, and you start to build up a brand. I'd say 15 or 16 years old trading stocks, actually. It was on one of my grandfather's accounts because you have to be, 18 years old to trade stocks.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and literally first day I put in like $1,000, it turned to $1,500.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You said 1,000, so I have to ask for the people at home. You were 15, right?
15 or 16.
How did you get $1,000, 15 or 16? Speak about that.
Yeah, so I got some money that went straight into Apple for obviously like a little Christmas, but then you start accumulating a few $100s. I mean, for some people that may seem like a lot, but I was selling some sneakers, and that I wasn't very good at that. You have like Supreme clothes. I like to rock them. I got some swag today, but it started with stocks, and then I would just get on calls with people.
Mhm.
I think you get that. Once you start
Yeah.
to get on calls, they're like, all right, who is this kid? So I started trading stocks, and with that money, I started to network and meet all these rappers. And then I started to make beats. So I started like, all right, maybe I should open up a studio. But that immediately opened up a path for a little record label. So now Shout out Prob Minty. There's a little producer. These kids, so talented, will be selling beats for $30, $40, $50. I came in, I'm like, yo, why not sell it for $300 or $400 and just go 50-50 with me? They're going to say yes immediately. But so stocks, crypto, there's the asset management, and then, of course, the cars are a big part of it. We spoke about that originally.
Yeah, that's obviously.
Obviously.
How we met. Yeah.
He had the little Aventador.
Yeah.
And I just clicked on his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And that's literally how it comes about. So it doesn't matter what you're selling, it's how you're selling it. And I think you can understand with podcasts, you start to meet people, you start to find all these new situations. This is only my second podcast. I'm like, yo, this is pretty dope. And we filmed that off of the worst little camera possible. So now we're here and we're ready to go back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a question for you.
Of course.
How important was that initial savings for you? Like, what made you, or I should ask, what was the initial drive? Like, when you were 15, 16, what made you want to start making money? Because usually at 15, 16 years old,
everybody's playing Fortnite,
playing sports, you know what I mean, eating candy, doing stuff that isn't usually good for them. Like, what made you decide, like, all right, I want to make a change. I want to start investing in stocks young. I want to start saving money. Like, what initially brought you that?
Well, for all three of us, I think we have received a blessing where we're just like, yo, I cannot live just this normal life that everyone else is doing. The $15 an hour, right? We started speaking about taxes and how money is not even real. To spend every $15 an hour for the rest of your life, you need to sit on the end of your bed in the dark by yourself with no phone. And you need to sit there and say, what am I doing wrong? What is ruining it's my fault. To avoid being a victim, you know, I think we spoke last time. Yeah. There was a quote when Andrew was, it was raining outside, and he said, this was my fault because I could have either had an umbrella or I could have got a jet to another location that wasn't raining. And once I heard that, or this man saying, the weather is my fault, I think that for all of us, we're starting to understand we need to have unlimited accountability. This is all our fault. My mother has been saying that recently when I've been stressed. She said, you're the only one in control.
100%.
So change it. You're the only one in control.
I love that saying. I have a question for you. When was it that first kicked in for you? Because I mean, I'm 25, and I know some of my buddies that still hasn't kicked in for them. Like, people still fail to take that accountability, even including myself, I have to say. Sometimes in my life, I fail to, like, find that accountability. But I just came to that realization, like, you could control everything. Whatever change you want to make in your life, you can make that change. When was that for you, that you decided, like, I'm going to make that change?
Yeah, I'm the CEO of my life.
Yeah.
CEO of my life. That's a good one.
Well, God's the chairman of the board.
100% accountability. Yeah.
But where did that come from? Like, what was the moment where you're like, I'm the only one to blame. I got to do this.
I don't know if it is. For some people, maybe it's a specific moment. For me, it's, you know, you look at your family, right? You said sometimes you have to snap yourself back into it. Sometimes I'll look around at my family and be like, yo, I'm going through it right now, but my job is to make your life more peaceful, not to give you more stress. I'm just going to eat this right now. I'm just going to go back to the gym. But
how important, sorry to cut you off, how important is the gym to you? Because I've realized you said, I'm just going to go back into the gym after stress. Like, can you, like, go over how does that help you de-stress? Like, how vital and how big is that in your life?
Every day for the past 3 years straight, no matter what. I've missed probably 5 or 6 days, and I'm not that big. I'm not at all. However, compared to before I started, it took over that first year before I saw anything at all. Right. So imagine you go every single day. I say, look, you go look at the hot chicks at the gym, whatever, but 30, 40, 50 minutes, that must be done, because there's always, you're gonna find yourself sitting on your phone. You're sitting on your phone and you're doing nothing. You could have done something else. So I'll go the first time and I'll come back after like 45 minutes. I'm sitting on my phone. I'm like, okay, well, you need to be productive. You need to do something right now. I'll just start driving back because we love driving. But the gym, I do want to say that has saved me, and I would like to vouch that will save anyone else. That'll save
Yeah.
you. That'll save you. That'll save your family. And we're talking about, what the higher ups do not want us to do, and it would be to go to the gym. They do not want you to go to the gym. They want you to sit on antidepressants. They want you to sit and be a sack of slush, not doing anything, not going to the gym, not helping anybody. And when I'm just sitting around doing absolutely nothing, I do feel deep shame. I think that's exactly what you need to do. You need to be like, yo, why am I doing this right now? I could be so much more. My first hoodie for my merch had the 444 on the back, and across the front it just said you could be so much more.
I got a question. So let's talk about the level of success that you've had with doing all of this. Because, like, if we're going to go from start to finish here.
Oh, I'm at the bottom. I will absolutely say I'm at the bottom.
Yeah.
But to know where you're going and to see the people above you, I do absolutely. We're very low on the totem pole.
Yeah.
However, we still know where we're supposed to go. And we still know what people we're supposed to watch and what to follow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
no worries. I mean, money is, it leads the world. Financial freedom, whatever issues you have might not be fixed by money, but at least the money problems will be gone, you know?
It's the key to everything in this world. That's what I'll say. That's like something I have always learned, is that like money is the key to it's the key to everything in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you can't have, I wouldn't say you could have spiritual success through money, but like you can have anything you want in this world through money, right?
Yeah.
Which is often confused with money is the root of all evil, right? Because how it corrupts people, it doesn't corrupt people, it amplifies people.
Mm-hmm.
I just did an interview with a guy who made like $2.7 million. He made it from $26. I was telling you guys, he traded it up. And he's like, look, money doesn't change you. It just amplifies everything about you. So like whatever insecurity you have, it just makes it way bigger because it feeds it. And it kind of tears it a little bit more. Like Jordan Belfort, he'll say that. I remember I did an interview with like one YouTuber. His name is Analyzing Evil. He's like, money's not the root of all evil, but it's very good at creating evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because over time, it just slowly corrupts. It can slowly corrupt certain people, right? It's not the root of evil, though. Having things is not the root of evil. It's not even having too much things. It's just where you're putting your money and if it's feeding insecurities, right? Because you can't buy your way into having a great body. I mean, I guess you could. Like, you could just take a bunch of steroids and not work out, but that wouldn't work,
So where would you say the evil is coming from with money?
From the people. If you are a bad person and you just naturally and you get money, or like an insecure person, it can corrupt you over time. But like you have to already have something in you that would make it worse, right? So I'm gonna try and think of like a great. So like I'll take this. There's more pharmaceutical pharmaceutical representatives of pharmaceutical companies in Washington D.C., like in Capitol Hill, than there are like all the congressmen combined. Like that's an example of like, okay, this is obviously crooked. Like I would say, like when you have like this endless desire to just more and more and more, and it never ends. And you completely lost sight of like what you even wanted in the first place or why you wanted the money, that's where things get crooked. Like when you're starting to lose sight of like who you are and screwing everybody around you over just so you can get like basically like money that means nothing to you. I'd say like that's like when you're starting to become like a more crooked person over time.
So you think it's going to get worse or it's going to get better with time? With everything that's going on right now?
In what sense? Like
you think it's just going to keep getting worse, or is it going to come to a halt? Where do you think this?
But like society, or like what are you talking
about?
Yeah,
absolutely, society.
So, society didn't evolve. In one like misconception people have is that society endlessly evolved upwards. It really more evolved like in a zigzag, where there were like periods where it went down, like
Dark Ages.
Well, yeah, like World War II. Like you could say like that's like kind of a plummet, but then it immediately went up because of all the inventions and competition. Like war is a major drive for competition. It's terrible, and it's like, but unfortunately, the reason why we have a lot of what?
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable, unfortunately. As long as humans exist, there will be war. There will be a desire for war, right? There was this book. It's called Blood Meridian. Like the main villain in it, he has this quote where he's like, "Before man was, war waited for him." Like it's a real, and it's true. And I said to a Navy SEAL once, I'm like, the dream world is one where your job has no use, which is to mean that an ideal world has no need for soldiers. That's an ideal, perfect world.
So you see that as a utopia, or is it
Well, if like I'm saying, I don't like to see people dying. That's what I mean.
that seems like the main thing we said. We said
Yeah.
there's people who are just for humans, and then there's people that are just anti-humans.
100%.
Well, more it's like
And-
pro themselves.
I see a lot of anti-humans.
Yeah.
Anti-humans, but it's like
It comes off as pro themselves, but it's anti-humans. Like you're saying, it's both. Like,
Well, if you advocate for one thing, you have to
Yeah.
advocate against the other thing, the alternative to it, the diametric opposite. So if you advocate for unity, you have to advocate against individuality, if depending on how extreme you are. You know, if on the other hand, like for me, I think individuality and unity can coexist. Like I think it would be a beautiful thing if we had a world full of free thinkers and like people that were complete individuals that were doing really great things with their art that then came together to combine their skills. But that's not the world that we live in.
It's restricting us because
Yeah.
that's going on.
Yeah.
But then you'll have people stomping those kids down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People, just
The
people.
school
yeah.
district, as we were speaking of.
100%.
How much has been removed? How far would society have just been just grown an upward spiral if they didn't have a foot on top of them?
Yeah.
As we spoke about school, you obviously have a foot on top of them.
Yeah.
The workplace, everywhere around you, no one likes to be positive. That's
Right.
why when you're smiling or you're being, they're like, "Who's this?"
Because it takes effort to be positive. It makes you seem like a little unnatural because most people are frowning or like have a.
They're just dead inside.
Right.
There's no soul, and they said more than half of the world doesn't have dialogue.
What do you mean?
There's nothing going on in their brains.
Like internal monologue? You
Just-
Yeah.
you don't have conversations with yourself all day long about something, or
Yeah.
you're not thinking about these people. There's nothing in there.
Right.
And of course, that's from TikTok,
Yeah.
most of the part. But there are people that do not have self-dialogue.
Right.
Those are the people who are just pushed in a direction
Yeah.
that they don't necessarily realize what that direction is about to be. Because
Yeah.
we're talking about the intent,
Yeah.
but those people they don't understand where they're going. They're about to be pushed by someone above them, right?
It's like sheep almost. Like you said, you haven't got a chance to explain your situation with school. If you don't mind explaining, how's your experience with school? Like, did you get a chance to go to college?
Yes. So, 2 different colleges. I went to high school in Florida, New York. Strange, right? I went immediately for automotive in SUNY Morrisville. It wasn't too good, but the second one, if you want to ask about my college, shout out SUNY Awk. I found it extremely strange when they started to remove the men's bathroom sign, and everyone in the class started to think I was the strange one, and then they started to put tampons in the men's bathroom. And once I started to say all these things, everyone thinks that I'm insane when maybe I'm the only person who wasn't. We're talking about the teacher, like, constant feminism. What does that mean? Because what rights do they not have right now? I believe is 100% everyone has the same rights right now in that position. So in school, and this cranky lady is trying to tell me about all these strange that I don't understand any of it because none of it's supposed to make sense. World War II, you were talking about Tristan. Tristan explained that in every country, World War II was explained in a different way. It had a different outcome or it had a different start.
Yeah.
Is that a little weird that the World War in every single country has a different cause or how it's explained? When we were talking about the school system, isn't this what an indoctrination camp was? To teach children as young as possible their point of view? Because if they're waking up at 6 or 7 o'clock, 6 or 7 to 3 or 4 in the afternoon, they're under the school's control. But the second that they come home, they're on TikTok, which is also bought out. So how much time is left for the parents to actually give them a correct explanation about what's going on or how to formulate their own thinking when right as soon as school is off, They're looking in their lap.
Right.
There's nothing that the parent can do anymore.
Well, the way I see it is, whenever there's a problem, whether it be, especially in society, it's, it's very easy to see the problem, but it's like, for me, what's the solution? To find the solution, you have to find the source of the problem, right? So what do you think the source of the problem is? Like, where, if we peel back the layer of the school system, like, who's in charge of the school
The
system?
Rockefellers.
Well, we brought up as them as like the inventors. Yes, they invented them, but like, who, like, let's get very specific here. Like, who controls, like, who to you, like, who is the source of the problem, or what is the source of the problem? Is it like what personality type?
Well, it can't be one thing and it can't be one move. I think this has to be a joint thing. Before we started, we said all three of us are in a good position because we're trying to make things better.
Right.
You said you want kids, and I had an adult recently ask me about children, and I said I believe it's smartest. I have a bunch of children, and they're trying to talk me out of it. And I'm telling an adult right now, 15, 20 years older than me, I'm like, no. They're gonna get their propaganda from someone, and I'd rather it be from me as their father, telling them why to do something. And I brought up in the first one, we're talking about trying to be good people and make the world a better place. That little homies against predators, I left a few comments and it started to blow up. I set up a little foundation. Homies against predators. I see what's going on. I know there's full-grown men in the little girl's bathroom. I like to immediately say I have a problem with all of it. Like you said, we need to find the real problems and go after it. There's no reason a full-grown man needs to be in the little girl's bathroom. I think that is a predator and that's dangerous, but we're being told to ignore that. We're being told that that's normal. I'd like to absolutely say I disagree, and I'm against that 100% and absolutely. But you also start to see the algorithm picks up these videos because a lot of people are commenting, saving it, and sharing it. When the police are called, the police are going up to the father of the actual... The police are like, well, there's not really anything we can do about it. What do you mean there's not really anything we can do about it?
Well, so I'll let him finish. I'll let him go first.
No, you can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so quick question for the listeners out there. What is Homies Against Predators?
So, Homies Against Predators, I co-started it with my brother. In the bio, it just says to protect innocence at all costs. Sometimes with the podcast, I'm like, I don't know, because what if I say something? And then after, I'm like, no, whatever I have to say, it needs to be said. So people are getting really afraid of this topic, and I'm trying to double down because I know it's right, and I felt proud about it when I was speaking of it. But obviously, I do things with social media, Instagram, whatever. I want to use social media to find these people, and if I can't personally do something about it, I'd hope the community does something about it, because we do need to find the sources of these problems, and this is one of them.
So one thing that I was going to say was the problem was that laws don't exist unless if there's people to enforce them. So
Well, absolutely.
yeah, so laws, money, like basically everything in society is built off of a foundation of nothing. I mean, you could say the foundation is money, but then you get into the argument that money isn't real because it isn't, because it's not based on anything. But when you get to, okay, who is telling the police to do what? It's really, so if you get a local cop and then you get like who's in charge of him, like a cop can't arrest you for doing nothing on paper. Like that's illegal. He has to follow the restrictions of the law and of his department. So let's say, the prosecutors within that district don't prosecute those types of cases, or, you get people that, so like issues like that is what I'm getting at. I'm saying it's a little bit deeper than just the cops themselves. I'm saying that there's other people that have a little bit of pull in that sense, which is a much bigger problem. Because I had on Jim DiOrio, he's like the former head of the New Jersey FBI, and he explained to me, he's like, yeah, and he's like, all these like politicians, because he did public corruption investigations, like all these politicians, like they have so much pull. He investigated, and I also interviewed the judge in this case, but like he's investigated Chris Christie. And there's like so many cases where it'll be like the head attorney, like the head state attorney of New Jersey, like their boyfriend, it'll be like a woman and like her boyfriend or vice versa. So like there's one guy who's committing like insurance fraud, clear as day, like in the Bahamas, charging patients hundreds of thousands of dollars for things that they didn't at all need, like made up names, everything. And he had video recordings. He wiretapped him. He had a video interview with the guy, everything. When they go to search his house, all of a sudden they get a call from the state attorney's office because that guy was married to the state attorney, right, who prosecutes everything in the state, right? And I think on a federal level. So my point with saying all of this is he's the head of the New Jersey FBI and he can't do anything about it, right? He has the same position as a cop in that circumstance. And he knew the guy was guilty. He told me the guy was guilty. And he even said the person's name. I think her name was Faith Hochberg, who did it. And if you look it up, like, there's nothing about it. So my point is, it's not necessarily like a cop that's doing anything wrong. It's the people that the cops have to answer to. And there's so many cases where, like, cops will have to investigate something and, like, prosecution will just throw it out or, like, yeah, all these things. So I'm saying, like, if you get a guy with that much pull who manages all the investigations, all of New Jersey, and it just ends with a phone call and the guy never gets prosecuted for scamming hundreds of thousands of dollars in ill-gotten gains from innocent people, there's something wrong, not with the FBI even, but like the people that have in control over the FBI, and that being like prosecutors and stuff like that, which have like more power than most people even realize in the justice system, or judges or other people. That's what I'm getting at. So when you're talking about these cases that cops aren't arresting people, it's like, well, they have to follow the law. They have to arrest people under the law. So when laws don't exist for certain things, or there aren't people that are willing to prosecute those cases, that's where problems start to occur. That's more the root of the problem. You don't
think we pick and you don't think they're just picking and choosing which ones
they
like
are
on and off?
They are, but it's like but it's about self-interest though. So think about it like this: if like you have the choice, so do you know who Matt Taibbi is? So he was the guy who released all the Twitter files, which exposed like intelligence agencies' influence in Twitter, foreign and domestic. And he wrote this article about the SEC and how the SEC is like one of the most corrupt government agencies, because on paper it's supposed to investigate people on Wall Street super easily, but in reality it doesn't work at all. And you can find this article online. I'm not like, so the reason that doesn't work is because a lot of the guys in the SEC, when you work for the government, typically you go private later on.
Mm-hmm.
You go private very quickly, right? So imagine you're working for the government, and then, you're supposed to work there for like 30 years, get some experience, get all this experience, and be able to get hired at like a much better paying law firm or, I don't know, an investigation company, private investigator, whatever. Like a lot of guys in the FBI do it. So when you get the SEC and you have the ability to work there for 10 years and then get a job in Wall Street or a Wall Street firm or a Wall Street company or build connections, why would you want to make enemies? Mm-hmm. That's an example of corruption. On paper, it's not bribery because there's no communication between the two parties for a favor in exchange for a service. However, the inclination is there to not investigate certain cases because of how the system is set up and because a lot of these people that work for the government tend to go private.
So are you saying just because it's the entire structure? The entire structure has been purchased out. So
right.
How do we go about this then? Are you saying to just wipe everything?
No.
Or to start taking one by one? How do you feel then?
I'm saying slim down. Like, so, okay, think about it like this, right? Think about how hard it is to get fired from a federal job. I would imagine it's very hard because you have to actually set people up. Like, you have to set up like a number of people. It's not like a private job where you just can say, okay, I don't like you, 24 hours, get out of here. I don't think, at least. You need like a full department, or like even as a local cop, you would need like multiple people to sign off and then say, okay, we don't want this guy here. There has to be like an actual reason, like for a number, and there's multiple protections. So it's very hard to get certain people fired. So my point isn't that we need to necessarily wipe everybody out and start from scratch. I'm saying that we need to like slim down on people that aren't doing anything in the government, or like there's no need for a Department of Transport, really. Like, I don't think there is, right? And yet that guy's getting paid 180 grand a year. There's no point for some of the agencies. Why is the CDC and the FDA two different groups as well? Like, maybe we could combine them. Maybe we could half the staff. Like, we don't need 2 million people working for the federal government. That's like one thing I believe. But in terms of corruption, though, we have to create a system. I don't know what, right? But I'm saying we have to create some type of a system that prevents those like systemic corruptions, like where people are uninclined to investigate certain people because of a favor they might get later on, or because they don't want to make certain enemies. Right? Maybe we could make their names anonymous. Maybe we can make investigators and
like a team or a group. Like, do you think this is even savable at this point? Because we have to be realistic as professionals. What are we working with? Or what do we have?
How long has it been going on for too? Like, you got to think about the time frame of it and like how deep does it run? You know what I mean? Like, how enrooted into the system is it? Because I mean, we see it every day.
well, it is the system, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I'll put it to you this way, like insider trading. Like, we could get into that topic of like
Nancy Pelosi. Shout out
Go buy the stocks, baby.
Shout out Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. So no, exactly. So she has a net worth of $180 million and a salary of about like $180 grand a year.
Treason.
Right. So on paper, anybody can look at that and instantly just go, okay, that this is clearly insider trading. You can actually look up, as a matter of fact, her stock history and find that her husband.
That's how I found Nvidia. It made over 20-something% was following a senator's trade because she had insider trading. Shout out Nancy Pelosi, the drunk witch.
So yeah. So look. So when it comes to something like that, why would this? Because the system is built on democracy. Like
democracy, right?
Right. A representative democracy. A true democracy would vote on everything. So a constitutional representative democracy. So if you get systemic corruption like this and people that are benefiting off of it, the people that can change it are also the ones that benefit off of it. So there is no. So in order to change it, you have to either get a very specific group of people to agree. You have to have them benefited off of it for some reason. Like, you can't. A lot of
they opposed the stock ban for the congressman.
When was that?
They tried. They're blocking it from being passed through.
Yeah.
For what reason would you need to do that?
Money. Well, it's self-interest. It's really not like it's like a 2 + 2 = 4. I don't ban this action and I make money. Okay. Like, that's all it is. People think it's like a super complicated step-by-step. No. It's just you get.
Well, they also think that these people are stupid, and they're not stupid because they know exactly what they're
100%.
doing. We are working for them when it's supposed to be them working for us.
Right. Well, think about the job of a senator in today. Like, think about how easy, like, a job of a politician is. Just think, like, I really think about it. People think, oh, wow, these really, really highly intelligent people doing all these things, talking about all these issues. Okay, sure, they're talking about these issues. But so what? Like, you're getting paid by a certain group. You're getting donations by a certain individual or group or organization or group of individuals, so on and so forth. And on top of that, all your voters think a certain way. Why would you want to think and discuss an actual issue when you're going to be of the same opinion still before and after a 6-hour-long conversation about whether or not to ban or to vote on something? Like, it's a complete waste of time. If you realize how much like of a waste of time the federal government actually is, like, it's such a... It frustrates me because these people get paid like $180 grand a year to sit down in a room and basically just say whatever they're paid to say by whatever organization they're represented by. And then for all of them to discuss, wow, guys, we really need to focus on this issue. Not saying the obvious, which is that they're making money off of it. Right? Wow, guys, we really need to focus on this group because I was paid to say this, because I have donations, I have donors, so on and so forth. If you get Bob Menendez, who the guy I interviewed investigated, like, in the FBI, they literally refer to him as a troll. Like, he's such, like, and he just keeps on getting away with it. Of just, like, gold bars in his shoes and, like, if you actually look up the stuff he's done, and this is, like, on the unknown side, there's a whole Wikipedia article you can find, like, U.S. federal government, like, corruption, and, like, it's so long. It goes from, like, George Washington all the way to now. Like, it's crazy. Like,
well, it was the anti-human we were speaking about. That there's money as in treason, and then there's killing people who didn't ask for that. Because none of us are asking for any war with anybody.
Right.
There's for human life and against it. None of us really want to take any of it. That's not what normal people feel.
Right.
We don't need to be killing anyone for anything.
Right.
And we're speaking about where our money is going. Well, that seems the main thing. Maybe like 2 years ago, the main problem I realized was, once you mess with a man's ability to feed his family, that is when you are going to get a problem. And then when you go against that man telling him he's wrong, there is going to be outrage. There is going to be violence. They're bringing these people to this. Right around here, half hour, 40 minutes, these people will take your life for a watch.
Yeah.
That is true.
Random acts of violence.
I had to lock my windows a few minutes down.
Right.
And close them up and turn down the music.
People.
But
go on.
Where our money is going, is that not a main thing? To immediately go again? Like, our roads would be fixed if we had this money. We don't. Do you not?
I know.
Where's the money going then?
Well, the money's going to people's salaries and people's pockets.
We said 40%, right?
40%. 40% property tax and everything. You know, all of your paycheck is going to basically employees of the federal government, and not all of them. I'm not saying every single employee is corrupt, because that's a flawed statement. That's a misnomer. It's like 15%, 10% of the federal government, which completely benefits off of corruption, which therefore allows it. So I'll give you you can name like any senator and just like look at how many trades they're making. And again, going back to like how easy their job is and how much they get paid, 180 grand a year is a very good job, or 100 grand a year. That's a very good job, or a generally good job, you know, to live comfortably at least. So imagine every single day you go to work and all you have to do is read a letter, sign a document, get on the phone, walk down to Capitol Hill, maybe get a chauffeur to drive you there, a private chauffeur for security, which the federal government also pays for, you know, depending on who you are. And all you do is you sit in a room where all these other people, they're doing the same thing as you, that have all they've done, they just read a document. They had a speechwriter write everything for them, right? That's a full job. You can get speechwriters. You know, these people aren't even naturally talented in that sense. Like, they don't even write their own their speeches. They look it over once and they're like, okay, it's good. And if even, right? And then you sit in this room and then everybody discusses a law and everyone's like, all right, guys, like, should we pass this law? And then after the end of a 12-hour conversation, plus filibusters, which is absurd to me, that there's literally a law that allows you to just talk about nothing for hours, and it requires other people to vote on you to stop talking. Like, it's ridiculous. It's a complete waste of time. And at the end of it, they finally passed a law which everybody makes money off of, or at least most people. So again, my point is, these people are completely benefiting off of it. So why are they going to change, right?
Do you think maybe it just is younger people, but then younger people can all be purchased out. Right. They're gonna be more susceptible to it.
Right.
But why do you think they're gonna be more susceptible? Because they're young and haven't ran into
naivety.
Naivety. Okay. What do you don't think? Let me see how to word this. What age group do you think though could make a difference though? What do you think can make a difference? Forget the age group. What do you think? Like, who do you think could make a difference is a better question to ask. Is it going to be guys like us that are willing to speak out about certain things? Is it guys that are going to be like, what type of person is going to make the difference?
Well, you need the dude speaking out. That has to be one. However, we are saying that they've removed the opinion from all of the actual people who live here. So even just the people living in a town making a decision for the town, that has to be somewhere to start. Because why do those people not have a say? We've been speaking about how people can't afford food. They don't feel like there's anything there anymore. They look around their neighborhood, they're like, wow, this is upside down. No one is listening to them. No one cares about their opinion. They are stomped out on every single day at work. They are stomped out everywhere they go. Everyone is negative all day long. So maybe it is just a group of dudes, but that has to be an average, because we're speaking about villages and communities. That can't just be a few people. Like, I don't think we could just pick a few people out to remove, but also to give. Like, it has to be a huge chunk of people still, no?
Yeah, it has to be like a communal.
Because it is still a loud few people who are saying it's okay for men to be in a little girl's bathroom, but all the full-grown 30-year-old men are not saying anything. Why is no adult saying anything? Because if you look at the road right by me, you'd look at it and be like, Did someone just drop a missile strike on this? It's been a week and my brand new tire is already busted out.
Well, that's just because it's not the interest of people that benefit off of, again, like, so think about it like this. If you're a politician, your last thought, unfortunately, is going to be, hey, maybe we should fix this road. Maybe we should do what's good for the people. No, it's always, how can I get reelected? That's the number one thought on everybody's mind. Is always, how can we subdue responsibility? How can we push this onto somebody else? Maybe get a team of people that were privately contracted by the federal government to do something. Like, you have no idea how unbelievably lazy politicians are. Like, it's actually unbelievable. And they get paid salaries to take vacations as well. So my point is, it's just not the type of people that are going to fix it. Not that they can't. They absolutely can. If they chose to, instead of funding a war or an organization that they make money off of, and they said instead, no, we're going to focus on fixing the infrastructure of the United States. It's too selfishly based. They have taken a job, at least politicians at least, which is supposed to be publicly, it's a public service. You are supposed to serve the people and say, okay, these people voted for this. All right, I represent the people, and I'll do what's best for them. On paper, the federal government's supposed to work for you. All government is really supposed to work for you. On paper. However, that's not how it really works in practice, because they have taken a job, which is a public service, and manipulated it into self-benefit. That's the root of the issue. Is like, take communism as an extreme, for example, which is purely the federal government or the government.
We're in communism, right? This is,
well,
right?
The way it's ending up to be. What do you think?
Well, what sense? What do you mean communism? Just like you don't own anything? Like...
Yeah, the conversion that makes the most sense to me was the hobos and the rich didn't take the vaccine, and the hobos and the rich don't pay their taxes. So it is the only the middle class. But what now is the middle class? Because they've sunk the middle class to such a hole. I think 2020, the U.S. dollar has lost 25% of its purchasing power.
Jerome Powell.
Thank you, pal.
25%. So we're talking about Bitcoin. How else do you escape this? Because holding USD, I'm telling people, do not even hold paper money anymore.
Gold is also a good option.
You know how I know, I was telling, we're buying little 2.5 gram ounces of them.
Yeah,
now.
I told
They're
you,
just
yeah.
holding gold now.
Yeah.
But you've now removed the stability for food. You've removed the stability to pay for your gas. You've removed it for holding money. Right. So money is now a weapon. This is all on purpose.
Right, but it's like, we gotta get very specific. It's like, by who? Who's benefiting off of what? Because it might be a group of 10 people, it could be a group of 100 people. Whenever you get into a conspiracy, or not a conspiracy, but like a theory, right? Speculation, you always have to be very specific with the root of it. So like, because I think that's where the solutions start to form. Because when you have, it could be anybody, like anybody who's saying, whether or not whether like Alex Jones, for example, he'd be like, they want X, they want that. And I've said this before, where if you want the root of a solution, or if you want the root of the problem, you need the root of the problem to get to the solution, the real solution, right? We can treat all these symptoms. Like, yeah, we could fix the issue of, taxes, for example. Okay, we lower the taxes. Fine. Like, or, we make it so that federal government employees have certain quotas, or we make it so that the names of investigators are private. Yeah, okay, but that's not treating the root of the problem. You could give yourself Tylenol all day, if you have like a really bad fever, or like a stomach flu, or if you have like a stomach bacterial virus, like you give yourself like all this Tylenol or whatever to like make yourself feel better, right? Or if you have a headache all day, every day, you give yourself a million Tylenols, but that's not getting the root of the problem. Like a migraine, like you give yourself aspirin, but you're not getting to the root of the problem. Maybe you're dehydrated. Maybe you're drinking too much caffeine. So again, you can make yourself feel good and make it seem like the issue's solved, but the issue's not really solved because the root is still there. So when we're getting like the roads, for example, or all these different issues, the root of the problem is not the roads. The root of the problem is people that benefit off of not caring about the roads. Do you understand what I'm getting at? Like, it's the people that don't have an interest because they don't need to have an interest. People are like so in their own worlds. If you think about the psychology of that person, like it's just like a normal person, right? These people are not special. There's nothing special about them. They're exactly like you, right? Which is also an interesting thing to think about. But it's like they're exactly like you, and my point in saying that is that they think like you. So imagine how much your blinders are up every day on you, on yourself. If you get a job where you can maybe squeeze and like do these little like favors for people or favors for yourself or make money this way or that way, or oh, I know this information. Do you know how tempting it would be to know the information inside and out of certain stocks and then to not use that to make money? Like, that's a very special type of person. If I was in politics, 1,000,000% I would be doing insider trading.
Good thing you're not in politics yet, at least.
Yeah, one day.
One day.
No, but you understand where I'm coming from. You have to be a very, very pure person, like, in order to not be like that, in that position of power. So it's not, you can't even say it's the politician's fault to some extent. It's a system. It's a system flaw, and there has to be one part of it or a few parts of it that combine that cause these other flaws, right?
But as a politician, wouldn't you want, I believe a good politician, like, you're coming in to help the people.
Leader.
A good leader. You're coming in to help the people, not help yourself.
Right.
So if you realize, like, there's corruption going on around me, why isn't a good politician saying, hey, you're corrupt, get out of here? Not, hey, let me see how I could benefit. Oh, the last guy made 100,000? I can make 200,000? How could we keep this going? No, you should be stepping in and saying, hey, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
And this got to go. We got to fix this. This isn't the right way to handle things.
Well, in an ideal world, that's how you should be. That's how a leader should act. A leader should act in the interest of not only himself, but of everybody around him, right? Of the people he's leading, right? So
instead of hiding in the back,
right?
They used to sit in the front,
right? So exactly. So they're supposed to be out there and say, "Listen, we got to do this. We as a people got to do that." And if you have a disagreement, you can question me all you want. I'm free to answer. The less a person is able to be questioned, like, that's when you got to stop trusting them. Like, the less you can, like, question, be like, okay, like what's up, like, with this or that, like, as a leader. If you have a leader that you can't question, or you have problems with them and they're like, and they just can't answer, and they're like, oh, just trust me, bro, like, there's a problem. That's what I think. Like, I think you need it. To his point about leadership, I think you absolutely need good leaders, but, like, it's so hard to find it in a system, even if they're not corrupt going in. A lot of politicians, you could argue, may even be good people, great people when they're going in. But think about what it does to a person to see money. Everybody's making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you could have a little bit more, just a little bit. So then you start doing, like, little things. Then all of a sudden you have your foot in the door a little bit, and then all of a sudden it goes more and more. It's kind of like money, right? You have a little bit of money, you like how it feels. That's how you start getting, like, a job. Like, you start spending things like you like. Okay, I like this. And for some people, they really like that feeling, and it goes on and on until they have money, until they have, like, either enough of the money that they want, or they keep on going and want more and more. I'm saying that's just human psychology, to just want more of what feels good and what's good for you.
Maybe it's a war on morality then. Which is something we can fix, right?
Yeah. Well, all change starts with you. That's my first belief, is that all change starts with you. So, like, you can't... So, like, if you want to fix society, fix yourself first. That's my thing. It's like, if you see a corrupt world, a corrupt society, you need to fix yourself first. You don't like the fact that people are overweight? Okay, fine. Go to the gym. You don't like the fact that people are dying of heart disease? Eat healthier. I don't care what it is. Like, it could be any issue. But you have to do something about it yourself. You have to start with you. Okay, I don't like how unfair people are being treated. Treat people a little bit more fairly. You don't like how... I don't know how generous maybe certain people are. Why don't you give a little bit more to certain people that you know? You can give a little bit more. Everybody can give a little bit more. I'm not saying they have to, but I'm saying whatever change you want, you have to embody.
And I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I mean, it's something we spoke on earlier, how you're the leader of your own life. You're like, you control everything. Like, if you take accountability for everything that's going on around you, you'll realize how quick you could change everything in your life. Like, if you think you're down bad in life, if you think, like, everything's going to shit and things just aren't working out, and you stop blaming and having that victim mentality of woe is me, everything keeps happening to me, and just say, I'm going to put my head down and work, I promise you things will change. Like he said, going to the gym every day, showing up for yourself no matter what, that's the important things in life. And then the end of the day, because you might want to change all these hundreds of things across the world, but how are you going to change those things if when you look in the mirror, that man isn't even doing those things, that woman isn't even doing those things? So take that second and look in the mirror and see who you want to be, what you want out of the world and go for it. There's nobody stopping you.
Absolutely. No, yeah, exactly. You have to embody whatever change you want in the world. Like, that's the first step. It's like you. Okay, fine. What are you doing about it? Like, what do you want to do about it? Or how do you feel about what you're doing? That's what I would say.
Just sit on your bed and really ask yourself, what am I doing that's ruining my life right now?
Right. Or what change? Mahatma Gandhi said it. That's I think, and he said it way better than I did. Which is, be the change you wish to see in the world. That's it. Like, if you yourself, my side of the street is clean. If you do everything right, you've done what you needed to do. Whatever anybody else does, that's outside of your control. You are in control of you. But anything beyond that, outside of mind.
I like that Gandhi quote. Sorry, the dogs are messing me up. Give me 1 second.
All good.
You hear?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want us to keep talking?
Yeah, keep talking.
All right, Cameron, what are your thoughts?
You're right. It's not one solution. I guess we're all gonna have to start doing something forward. You're right about being a victim. You're eating, and you really don't need to be drinking soda. You need to drink some water, but eating, going to the gym. We are saying it's a morality war, but yeah, it's gonna start with us. You know, just hold. Actually, 'cause when I've held the door for people, you can just see it.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's some dude in the gym with some B-ass Jordans, and those Jordans are fire, and a lot of the time they're not.
Yeah.
But that could just save that dude's life. I
Right.
think you're starting to see that. Just a little interaction. One little thing change someone's entire trajectory.
Yeah. So, I mean, 100%. My thing is always like, what am I doing right now? And like, if I can change it, then I will. Because I think you can also do anything. That's another thing. But another thing about society is that it's also pure. So much of society's focused on what everybody else is doing and how everybody else needs to be a solution but you. And if you look at the way that the news talks about solutions to problems, it's always, wow, what is the Senate going to vote on? What is this group of people going to vote on? What is everybody except for you going to do about this problem?
So I have a question for you, Cam. So what were the few changes you saw that made the overall big change for you in your life? You said the gym was one of them. Going to the gym, showing up every day really changed your life. Are there anything else, like when you were young and even now, you see that you had to change? Maybe even you had to give up in order, that it was a sacrifice you had to make in order to get where you are today.
Well, yeah, you had the friends in school immediately. Some of them will always be there, but others you're like, yo, we are on a completely different. You could do that. There's no way I could live the next 20 years doing this. So immediately, like looking for you guys. There's different. I think there's 4 different types of, not like a miracle, but like the odds. And one of them was actually looking for something. When I see he's got the podcast, I'm immediately like, all right. So your surrounding, of course, it said some of the 4 people around you spend the most. That has to be a huge one. Obviously, I was blessed with amazing parents, my mom and dad. It's some of the best things you could get, but I think seeing suffering around you, right? That has to be a big one. When you see that around you, it turns you off. You can't eat. Your stomach starts hurting. That's for me at least. When I see these things that I can change, I think you're right. All we can do is start with ourselves. But you're eating. Obviously, if you cut out some of the shit until middle of the day or one whole day, I actually feel better just from the food. Because I'll eat just some normal food. I'll feel better the next day. So maybe just try food and water and then go to the gym, because that might be the only thing you need to do. But of course, I think you should build up a little agenda of things for a 1-month goal or a 5-month goal and a 6-month goal and a 1 year and a 5 year and a 10 year. And that at least is going to give you some sort of where you could visualize like, okay, I want to be here. I want to be here. I want to be here. We didn't do the podcast immediately, but I'm like getting in the studio. This is the second podcast I've ever done. After the first one, I was like, that was awesome. So we gotta do a second time and then a third time. But yeah, your surroundings. If you are hanging out with only crackheads, you're gonna become a crackhead. That's just how it has to be.
And I completely agree. That, I mean, what was one of the things that made you realize like this guy's not for me? Like when you were in high school, like because there's so many kids that are probably gonna be listening to this and feel like they're in high school and like have all these friends around them that feel like they might not be for them, might be for them. Like, oh, but this is my buddy for the last 10 years. Like, he's going to be with me forever. Like, what advice do you have for those kids that are like on the fence right now that don't know whether to like give up the friends or like, would you even say like give up is the proper word? Like,
No, not. You don't actually have to give up. Sometimes you're just elevating at such a speed that they cannot keep up with as you're skyrocketing. Sometimes they're just gonna die off. Sometimes they cannot just keep up with it. But if you do that, if you gain 1% every single day, as in the gym, that's 365% in a year. And if someone says, okay, every other day I'm gonna go, well, they're immediately gonna start plummeting as you're skyrocketing.
you're already beating them. You
So-
already got double the days on them.
And so when I said, okay, 30, 40 days, 30, 40 minutes, then you could bounce. If I just go every single day, how do you beat that? You can't beat that. So if you just go every day for 30, 45 minutes, and you just sit on your phone in between. Because like I said, I'm not the biggest, but that is what I want everyone to do is to follow that. Just don't be a victim and go to the gym. Because if you do 30 or 45 minutes every day, that there's no bad thing coming from that. You never leave the gym feeling worse than you went in.
Yeah, just the mental fortitude I could say for myself is you change the serotonin that's pushed out, the dopamine that's pushed out in the gym, and knowing like you probably heard this before, knowing all right, do something hard already so the rest of the day could be easier. You could feel good about yourself. Like you know what it feels like to get the homework assignment done, to get the job done, and sit at the end of the day and be like, "Damn, I had a hard day's work and I feel proud of what I did." You know what I mean? That gym could be that little kickstarter for you, whether it's in the beginning of the day or in the end of the day. Like, dang, I had a long day and I still managed to get in here and bust my ass.
Yeah.
Like, that just goes to show, like, the type of person you are compared to everybody else. Not saying that it's better or worse. It's just saying you're willing to go out there and go get what you want more than the next person.
No, you could try right when you wake up, make your bed. You're going to be like,
That's
I do
absurd.
not want to do this, and I'm going to do this anyway. And then the next tasks are going to be so much easier
So,
downhill.
that was going to be my next question. Because since I go to the gym, I know what it feels like. What do you do on those days you don't want to do? What do you tell yourself on those days like, I don't want to go to the gym? I know I don't. How do you get yourself in the gym? How do you get yourself to get the work done?
We're talking about Justin Waller. Justin Waller will be like, all right, I'll go in for 4 minutes. I'll go in for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'm leaving. And then he doesn't leave. And that's it. And 40 minutes later, he's like, shit, I didn't even want to come in today. Simple as that.
That's an interesting trick.
It's just what the gym does to you, man.
Well, David Blaine, he had a trick whenever you do like, cause he, you know who David Blaine, the magician, is. Like, yeah. So I just want to make sure. So he did a trick where he was trapped in ice for like 72 hours or something crazy, 24 hours. I don't know. Anyways, so he would always do this trick where he'd be like, all right, I only have another 45 minutes. And he would tell himself that. So we just keep going until it was over. And I've done that before with like, when I would get like really into fitness, I would always do that, like with running, like with cardio. I'd be like, just another, I only have 5 more minutes, and the next thing you know, I'm like, I run 2 miles, like just straight 3 miles. So,
No, the running is brutal. 'Cause that's the worst thing you possibly do.
but it's great for your health.
That timed mile, do
Yeah.
that, and then hop on like a crunch machine right after.
Yeah, it's great. It's
My
good for your
goodness. You guys are talking about like my nightmares.
No,
But that's-
there's
that's what you
nothing
gotta do.
worse than that
Yeah.
mile.
health. Yeah.
And then when you do that, you feel amazing.
Yeah, 100%. I recently ran my first mile. I was coming off a meniscus tear, and I haven't done like pretty much any running in the past year. But I ran it, and I got to tell you guys, I hated that mile so much. Before I ran that mile, I called my little sister, and I said, I don't want to run this. I'm not going to run this, but I'm just going to show up. And I showed up for myself that day, and after that mile, I felt amazing. Yeah, my legs were shaking, and I felt weak, but the next day I wanted to wake up, and I'm like, let me go run again. Because it was one thing that I realized, like, I might not be that good at it now, But see me in 1,000 days. See me in 2,000 days. Like, I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna keep working every day at it, and that's the importance. Like, you might not be good at something now, but put in the work every day, even if it's a little bit of work, 5-10 minutes. Those 5-10 minutes add up. Do 5-10 minutes times 1,000. How many minutes is that? You know what I mean? That time adds up every day.
You brought up your sister, so it's a big one for you, right?
Yeah, she's my family is a big
For
one
the
for me.
family.
It's for the family. I do everything
Vin Diesel.
for the family and for everybody that loves me, because it's not only for my family. I'm thankful to say I have a great support unit of friends and people that I meet every day that just love me, and I realize like this isn't for me anymore. Like, I'm doing it for all you guys. I'm doing it for everybody around me. Like, this is bigger than me. Like, I want to, like you said, being a real man, like being a true man, like I want to help the world in any way I can, you know? And helping the world isn't going to happen by me sitting on my butt, swiping through TikToks. Like, it's not going to happen unless I'm taking action, and taking action in my own life, going to the gym, reading books, getting smarter, networking. It's all about every day taking action, not, oh, I mean, I see my mom's working hard. I want to take action. I want to retire my mom today. Today I'm feeling lazy. Like, it's not about doing it just when you feel like it. It's about doing it day in and day out, especially when you don't feel like it. I personally think that's the most important time to do it, because that's the hardest times. And once you get over that mental hurdle of like, dang, that was really hard and I didn't want to do it, but I did it 110, 150%. I did it way better than I thought I was, because you've gone into the gym and you're like, dang, I don't want to bench. I don't want to lift. I feel weak. I feel like I'm not going to be able to do it. And then next thing you know, you're breaking PRs. Like, yeah, this is light. And why? It's because you consistently went in every day and your muscles are already like, dude, I'm going to show you why you worked every day. You know what I mean? Like, you mentally might not feel like you're improving, but your body will show you it. Whether it takes a month, whether it takes a year, whether it takes two, your body's going to respond to you doing healthy and good things for it.
You won't miss a lucky day if you go every single day.
Exactly. Like, people say success is luck, but that's not necessarily true, because the people that become successful and maybe you say have those lucky opportunities, they were ready for those opportunities. And that's what it's about. It's not always about being lucky. It's about being ready for your opportunities, regardless whether it's tomorrow or a year from now. Like, you need to be ready. And what you need to do to be ready might be different from somebody else, but you know what you need to do. Sit down, plan it out, and go after it.
Yeah, you said it might be different than someone else. A lot of these rappers are arguing about how low they started. Why not argue about how high they can finish? 'Cause we're all bragging about where we started. Well, let's make the cool thing, who can do this, who can do this, who can accomplish the most.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing you said, like, who can accomplish the most? Like, make it a friendly competition. Like, make it competitive, because that's one thing you guys see going into the gym, like, the competitive nature of the people around you. You know, you're a little younger, you're still in high school, so
Yeah, 100%.
you still see, like, the sports competitiveness around you, which is amazing. But once you get a little bit older, like, everyone's not as competitive. Like,
You
some
have
people,
to compete with yourself.
exactly, and that's one main thing. But for some people out there, competition with yourself might not be enough. That's why you go looking for people like him, people like George, people who are motivated and driven to be something bigger and want something bigger. Because if not, it's like you're kind of just gonna die out. Like, you might hit a plateau, but if you got good people around you, a good support group, it's really hard to die out. I could promise you that. Like, because if you're not kicking yourself in the butt, you're gonna have those 10 other people that love you kicking yourself in the butt, saying, let's get up and go, baby. We gotta work."
It's hard to find that, but like you said, with family,
Mm-hmm.
you need to find a lot less people. But once you find those people, that's how you have to surround yourself. Make only those people around you. I don't want anything else, because you see the negativity. It's sticky. It's sappy. It stains everything around you. I don't want to be negative anymore. I don't want to be telling, oh, you can't do that. You're killing someone's soul with that.
100%. That's the
So-
worst thing you can say.
Have you ever had that, like, growing up? Have you ever had like an aunt or an uncle come by and be like, "Oh, why are you trading stocks? Like, why are you doing that? Why aren't you going to college?" Like, did you ever have to go through that growing up?
Yeah, I want to say I'm still going through that, and I don't want to say necessarily that's a bad thing, because we can't forget we're 21, 22, 23. Our parents are 20, 30 years older than that. So when they're trying to give you advice and you don't see it the same way, yes, they could be right, but they could also be incorrect, because that's their only perspective when they're saying to buy a house. That doesn't make sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No one can buy a house right now. So it can come from your family, and you need to be able to receive it, but also distribute that whatever they just said, and okay, I'm taking it this way, or okay, I'm gonna not even think about it for right now. Tomorrow, let's set some time for me to think about and how to get through this obstacle.
So you say now they still go through it. For the kids sitting back home thinking about like, oh, what would you say to them so they don't let those thoughts get to them? Because sometimes it's the most important people in their life. Sometimes it's mom and dad telling you you're
You
not
saying
enough.
like negative thoughts?
Yeah, those negative thoughts. Like, what would you say to those kids?
What I'll say is, right now I'm 21, and if I were to slow down or to give up, the amount of momentum that would fall, like if I picked it back up when I was 30, it would take another 20 years. So no matter where you are right now, it doesn't have to be about how low you are, because sometimes the rock bottom is the best place to start building up a solid foundation. Just, again, Justin Waller said, if you can't see that far ahead, just take the first step and just go to the gym and just try one thing. Because I get overwhelmed too. So let's not overcomplicate everything. Sometimes just sit down and put the phone away. Because when you're in the middle of a horrible thing going on and you just keep sitting looking at your phone, you can't just pray for some of these things to go away. And it is just solid action sometimes is the only thing that can fix it. But that was an awesome question. A lot of you guys are going to have people either pulling you down, you know, having your parents tell, or having your teachers explain that you're only going to be making $13, and then, you know, I have someone trying to pay 45 minutes of my time. They're offering me $500 to speak at an event. And when you go back and you're trying to listen, your teachers be rude to you, or you're making $15 an hour, you do start to understand that nothing makes sense. So you have to understand that the world isn't even real right now, but you need to stay calm, stay composed, and the negative people are going to be everywhere, right? We cannot just hide from them. They are going to be everywhere. You are getting them in school, right? They're there.
Yeah.
Maybe when you started more than how far you've gotten. Faded in and out.
In and out. I mean, most people are pretty positive about it, but just because it's like they know the guests.
Well,
I think,
but
yeah.
how would you go about it? Because you're much younger than us.
About what specifically? Like negative people?
Yeah, negative people, people pulling you down, parents, anyone trying to step on your soul with it. Because a lot of the time they don't understand they're doing it.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. One mistake a lot of people do is they ask too many people. So, okay, I have a saying where it's okay to ask for help. It's not okay to rely on help. Number one. Number two, when it comes to asking people for advice, one of the biggest mistakes people make is they ask not necessarily just the wrong people for advice, but they ask way too many people for advice. It's okay to ask for advice. I ask for advice all the time. However, I know who to ask advice from and what advice I need. So, number one, most people don't have your best interest at heart. The majority of people are, number two, they don't even know you. So when you ask somebody for advice, it's negatively tilted. They don't really know you. They don't really know what you want from your life. You know, so, or they don't like you, and they're going to tilt you in the wrong way or in a way that benefits them, which ultimately leads you to a different direction completely. So, or on the flip side of that, they do have your best interests, but they just don't know what your interests are. They don't know anything about you.
So how bad is it in school right now? So you said you're a senior, right? You're about to be senior.
Yeah.
So how was it 2 years ago and how is it now? What the main differences?
Well, I mean,
and how you've dealt with it.
I mean, it's nothing like crazy. Like there's just, it's not like, you know, anybody's like, dude, your podcast sucks. Like I've never had that. It's more like, you know, oh, like the people that you interview aren't like famous, like, or which is like, okay, like what's your definition of a famous person?
So how we're going about it is You just brush them off.
Well, I know me better than they know me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, look, there's a saying by Marcus Aurelius where he's like, the opinions of 10,000 men are useless if none of them know anything about the subject.
Absolutely.
Like, I know me. I know about my subject, which is me, which is my life. And I know why I think the way I do and what my interests are. Most people don't. Like, or basically nobody does, or very few people do. And those people, and, you got to know who to trust. Like Cristiano Ronaldo, most famous, one of the richest people in the world, he's said in interviews, like, I only trust 4 people. Like, if that's the most famous man in the world who knows everybody inside and out, like everybody wants to talk to him all the time, you can only trust 4 people. Only 4. And that's like a good amount. Like some of those people, like only can trust 1. Like, so, when it comes to asking people for advice, right? That's a very big mistake that a lot of people make because they don't know who to ask for advice and they just listen to whatever advice is given to them. It's like, okay, well, no, does this advice really apply to me? Like, there was one guy. This wasn't in school.
I make that mistake.
Yeah.
I make that mistake.
Yeah, and sometimes also too, you take advice that doesn't really apply to you. So like for me, like I function much better off of like a good amount of sleep, but I would make the mistake of waking up early because everybody told me to wake up early. Like, and that's a common like piece of advice, but like it doesn't apply to me. Bruce Lee, like the greatest martial artist or one of the greatest martial artists or most famous actor, whatever you want title you want to put him. He's like, listen, like record what works, record what doesn't work. Like, and another thing he said was never ever try to look for a successful personality and like copy it. Like, you can copy the actions of somebody, but do not copy the person. Don't say, well, if this doesn't work for me, then there's something wrong with what I'm doing. And if you've done everything right, like, no, like trust your gut a little bit. Like, people need to know themselves. Most people don't know what they want from life. Most people don't know what they actually need. Most people have no clear direction of what they're doing or where they're going. Some people you might ask, like, okay, maybe in like 5 years I want to do this. Maybe they have a million half things. It's like, well, no, like choose like one thing that you're really, really adamant about. Try a bunch of other things too, but don't put so much energy. If something really catches your eye, do it. Like, nobody's stopping you. But anyways, to your point about negativity, it's like, okay, if that person really knows you, and this goes for compliments too, where some people will compliment me, and it's like, I'm not going to be like brushing it off necessarily. I do like to, think about the compliments, of course, as well as the criticisms, but it's like, does this person really know me? Does this person like want me to have a big head? Is this person trying to get something from me? Like, most people fall into a lot of traps that they don't even realize. Like, oh, wow, my parent thinks this, my teacher thinks this. Well, do you even like that teacher? No. Okay, like that guy doesn't even teach you something you care about. So he doesn't know anything about your interests. And maybe he's not even a bad person. Maybe he just has a completely different outlook on life because he's lived a completely different life than you. And he's had completely different experiences than you. One guy I didn't even ask for his opinion. I said to him, like, hey, look, I'm going to write a book because I am writing a book. And it's going to be based on the interviews that I've done. And before I could even finish it, he's like, that won't work. And I'm like, why not? And no, I immediately asked him, I'm like, why not? And he's like, because nobody reads books nowadays. I'm like, that's completely not true. Like, there's a lot of people that read books. Maybe not as many.
Yeah.
But there's so many people that read books. Anyways, so point is, don't listen to every word that's given to you. Most people have another thing.
We got emotional.
Yeah.
We got emotional when they said it, right?
Well, not even.
Or took it personally almost.
Well, a lot of people take it personally. I don't try to take it personally. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Try is the key word, though.
Yeah, I don't try. I'm like, you know what? Listen.
Do you let eat you?
I used to.
Everybody does.
I mean, even nowadays, I'm still adjusting. I mean, we're all young. I'm growing in my own ways right now.
Yeah.
But I feel like this last year, I'll say this for you guys: when you turn 25, your mind changes. It's weird. Like, your mind fully develops, and it's weird. I could say the second I turned 25, there was like a switch in my head.
Yeah.
Just like all these ideas that I created when I was younger that we're speaking about now. It's not that I didn't have these ideas or I didn't think about these ideas, but it finally clicked. You know what I'm talking about? Like, when people tell you, yo, you need to be eating healthy if you want to see results in the gym. It's like, that, but it clicked to the point where, like, now I'm taking action where it's like I need to be eating healthy. Like, I know if I want to be successful, if I want to be this, that, like everything just finally started to click. And it, like I said, it was one of those things I had to do some self-reflection, look in the mirror, and I realized it was all on me. I was one of those woe is me, and I had to
Right.
make the change myself and stop blaming everybody else for my shortcomings or my falling out. Realizing I could control everything was
So
key.
realizing you could control everything, how did you get there? How did you get to build saying, "This is me"?
So I mean, I'm still going through it right now, you know what I mean? But like I said, one thing we've been speaking about the whole time, the gym has been my saving grace. I mean, that and my faith, my belief in something bigger than myself, knowing like regardless of who I am, what I'm doing right now, like this life is only materialistic. Like this materialistic life doesn't mean anything. Like doesn't matter what I have in my bank account because that will never make me truly happy. Like I've been
Can't
in
take it with you.
yeah,
Can't
I've
take
been
it
in a
with you.
position where I've had money saved up. I've been in a position where I've had no money and I've owed thousands of dollars. Like I have college debt right now. I owe money, you know what I mean? But I've never been less happy or more happy. What really determines my happiness is my relationships. Like how am I conversating with my mother, how am I conversating with my father, how am I treating the people around me that love me. And I came to realize a few months ago, like I was being a dirtbag realistically, like even though not on the day to day, you know what I mean? But in the grand scheme of things, like the successful person I want to become isn't gonna treat his family and friends like this, isn't gonna treat his girlfriend like this, you know what I mean? Even if it's those little things, those little jokes, it was time to change 100%. And I could promise you, like I said, the gym, I didn't want to change. I liked cracking the jokes. I liked being a little meaner and this and that. But I realized like that's not who I wanted to be. That's never who I wanted to be. I want to spread joy, positivity across the world. And how can I do that? When my best friend, I'm cracking on him, you know what I mean? When my mom, I'm not getting her flowers, when I'm not paying attention to the little things around me. I just slowly started to change that. I'm not going to say, "Oh, I changed all in one day" cuz I'm still changing now, but like you said, I showed up to the gym for 5 minutes. That's what happened. Like
Yeah,
the
we're realizing something has to change. So we probably all of us love our families a lot, and maybe some of us have made mistakes. You spoke about your mother. Where are you gonna change? Where are you gonna do differently? Because I love my mother more than anything. I know I screw up a lot, but you're right. Maybe we're the only ones that can fix this, and it's right now what could be done.
For me, it's just being more grateful and letting them know how I feel cuz I could say this as a man, I've never been vulnerable. And something happened a few months back where I had to become vulnerable. Like I had to open up and I realized like opening up and just speaking about how you feel isn't bad, especially to the people you love, you know what I mean? It's important. Like those days you're stressed, we want to like we want to take all everything on us and put it like give me your issues, I'll carry all the weight. But then who's going to carry our weight, you know what I mean? And sometimes it becomes unbearable. It's like and when it's unbearable, where do you go with it? You know, and that's where we come back to like the importance of having a good family, good friends. Like when my weight was unbearable, I threw it on my mother, I threw it on my father, I threw it on my family and friends. And then I came to realize like wow, like the love they had for me, the genuine true love, like no matter what, no matter how down and out I was, no matter like the zero belief I had in myself, they had belief, they had constant belief. That's the one beautiful thing. Like even when I didn't have belief in myself, they believed in me. And that's, for me at least, what got the fire lit under my butt. If you ask my friends, if I don't hit the gym for one day, I probably, like, I feel so ashamed. I feel like a piece of poop. Like, it's nuts. Like you said, it was funny you said, like, when you sit around, you feel ashamed. Because I used to sit around so much and hang out and, like, watch Netflix and watch this. And then I had to turn the switch on. Now, like, I can't. I physically can't. My body does not let me.
Our days are limited.
Yeah.
Time moves fast too. Time moves.
We don't
very
know
fast.
what's coming either.
Well, so one thing I also wanted to note. So I have done how many interviews have I done? Like 81 at this
He's got a
point.
bunch.
I've got a lot, a good amount. Many which I haven't released yet. But so I kind of got down this path of like, what am I actually learning from each of these interviews? Because these are like, to me, they're interesting people. They're people that have done like hundreds of other podcasts, been on like some of the biggest shows between like Lex Friedman or Darknet Diaries, the host of it, whatever. Between Matthew Cox and this guy Barry Minkow. So Matt Cox, do either of you know who he is? I know I explained it to you. I don't know about you.
Fake money.
Yeah. Well, no, not fake money. He didn't do counterfeit. Anyways,
It was so interesting, right? With
You
the
know-
little, he had highlighters broken apart for the little UV.
no, different guy. Different guy.
Different?
You're thinking of Jeff Turner, I think. Maybe.
Which one was this?
So Matt Cox was the $55 million fraudster. That's the interview title. He did $55 million estimated by the FBI in mortgage fraud. And he was on the run for 26 years, number one on the Secret Service most wanted list. And I think on the FBI most wanted list too. So with him and Barry Minkow was taking loans from the mob. And he made like this $100 million Ponzi scheme by like 25. And this is like the FBI's worth. It's not even just his. Like the FBI. And I even asked him like the height of your net worth. Like what were you worth? He's like $100 million.
So that was the cleaning company?
Yes. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? Barry
I'll
Minkow.
listen to one of them.
Yeah. So I haven't released that, the Barry Minkow interview, but you know who he is. So I haven't released that interview, but in it, I spoke to him and I had spoken to Matt Cox about this too, where Matt Cox, one of his biggest regrets, because when he admitted to himself like why he was doing all this, it was to impress people, right? It was to impress people. It was to impress people in his mortgage like in the companies that he was working with, all these people. And after a certain point, he wanted to impress people with the frauds he was doing. He wanted to impress like either the FBI or the investigators, and he like it just all the time. He not even bragging, but just like that's what he would try to do to impress people. He would just commit all these crazy schemes. And the way that the news would describe him, he like felt a rush about it. And eventually, and then with Barry told a much sadder story. But with Matt Cox, like an insanely famous criminal, he's like in prison, in federal prison. Nobody visited him. None of the people that he was trying to impress visited him. The only people that visited him were old friends from high school, and his family, and that was it. Like, so I brought up the quote. I'm like, when you're 20, you start to learn what people think about you. You start to care about it. When you're like 30. You stop caring, and when you're 34, you stop caring. But then, like, when you turn 50 or 60, you realize nobody was thinking about you. Very few people think about you, and the people that do think about you, it's for, like, such a small part of their day. Some people, like your mom, probably think about you all the time, right? They're like, what am I going to do? What's best for my son? And yet, those are the people that we try to impress the least. Those are the people that we care about the least for their approval or, you know, what they want from us. And we and if you look everywhere, it's always like complaining about their parents, complaining about parents. My mom sucked, my dad sucked. It's like, look, like 30% of like your relationship is going to suck. If it's a good relationship, 30% of that is going to suck. Even if you're really lucky, you have like 15% that's really going to suck. And it's usually going to be like one major flaw that person has. But that 70, 80%, don't get rid of that person just because they suck that 20%. I've had to learn that the hard way. If you find somebody who really cares, unless if that person is doing something tremendously wrong or betrays you, don't let that guy go. Like, be very careful with who you not only pick as your friend, but who you take away as your friend. Because you can't always get that back. You know, and you don't know who people really are. That's another thing too. But that's a conversation for a different time. My point is, most people are so concerned with people's opinions constantly. And it's like, well, it's not that you should never care about anybody's thoughts or opinions on you. I'm not saying you should become a psychopath and just like put the blinders up and never like concern yourself with anybody's thoughts. I'm saying this endless obsession that people have built around, what does this guy think of me? Like the most powerful people in society, they want people's approval, right? That's the nature of their business. It's, you know, you get a guy like the most famous people in the world, whether it's Michael Jackson or it's Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi. You don't think that there's like I mean, probably not now, but like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's probably a good example. It's like you have a concert with hundreds of millions of people watching you. Like, you don't think that person has a bit of an ego? Like, probably wants to do stuff for fame? Like, you look at Justin Bieber, 12 years old, you had girls like running up to his house trying to find just to be around him. You think that guy's gonna end up normally? No. Like, some of the most famous people in the world have the biggest issues with approval and other people's opinions. And eventually they burn out and they realize they're like, nobody cared. Like, nobody really cared. You get Steve-O, who is like one of the most famous people, like star of Jackass, one of the most famous people out there, millions of followers, everything. Like 20 years ago when he had his drug addiction, he was in an apartment alone doing drugs. You know who saved him in the end? It was his 5 friends on Jackass. Those were and his sister who would call 911 to check up on him. Those are the people that cared. Not all these fans, not TMZ reporting on the fact that he was going to the hospital constantly. Like, it's not that I'm not going to sit here and be like, nobody cares about you, but it's like, look, 99% of people don't care. They just don't.
It's true.
It's
That's
unfortunate. And so when you get a guy who tells you that won't work, this sucks, like, okay, like, listen, you can think about that. Think about what the person's saying. And you have to be like, why is this person telling me this? Is this person like knowledgeable about my life? Does this person know what I want? Does this person really care what I want? You know, all these thoughts, these matter. And if you factor it all in, you're like, nah. Like you have to know it's like a nah, like the whatever bag. You have to have that in your head, like a bag of like whatever. It's like whatever. Like somebody says it, like whatever.
I saw someone set that up as their computer, and they had the little recycling bin. They mentally drag it to the recycling bin.
Yeah. You have to be
I
like,
don't need this.
for me, I'm just, like, it is what it is. Like, that person thinks that fine. Like, I remember I got, like, one comment where I said, I'm like, comparison is the thief of joy. And on that video, I got a comment where it's like, dude, George, that's, like, common sense. Like, why would you say, like, yeah, no crap. That's common sense. I'm like, and I thought to myself,
Comments. You read in the comments.
and then I'm like,
oh,
no, well, most of them are positive. Like 90% of them are positive, but it's like that 10% or that 5% that's like, dude, why'd you go on a tangent? Why'd you do this? It's like, okay, look, I apologize. It's like, you don't know me. Like, I don't know you. It's like, I don't know. People get very angry. Like, when you're putting a comment out, like, you don't even realize how angry it is. I think that's also part of it. But when you're, like, on the receiving end of it, you're like, you think it's, like, a personal message. But it's not.
Yeah.
Those people also don't concern themselves with you. So,
It's just a Twitter finger warriors, man. You ain't got to be worried about that.
Yeah.
That 10% negativity is just a reminder you're doing something right. Because if you weren't doing anything right, you wouldn't have any haters. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be in a position
if you
for
weren't
people to
unique
hate
or
on
creative,
Yeah.
you're gonna have like some haters. That's
Yeah.
fine. Like,
you. Yeah, for sure.
but know how to deal with it. Like, know who you are. Like,
Exactly.
you have to know the importance of an identity. Most people don't know who they are. Most people don't know what they want. I'll say that over and over again because it's so true. Most people have no real interest in what they want. Like, they have this passion that they've taught themselves to let go of because, we'll look for something more realistic or something that society looks upon and proudly. You could be the most academically. So I came up with this theory where it's that people pleasers in the short term give off the illusion of being way more successful because they get. So here's an example. So like people pleasers, they are able to get things like favors. They're able to get like little things. They're able to make little connections over a broad space. If you get like, let's say 5,000 people that you talk to, right? That's a tremendous amount of people. Most people don't have that like capacity of networking. But let's say you talk to like 5,000 people and you're like kind of friends with those 5,000 people. Like you kind of know these 5,000 people. Okay. You can get these either very little favors from each of them or one really big favor from a few of them. That's why people pleasers in the short term succeed. And so as a result, they're able to get these big jobs and they're able to look good and able to land these positions and able to get money and make lots of it and able to, manipulate people to get what they want. But in the long term, they completely fail at life just for the simple fact that they have learned to ignore what they actually think and feel and to shut that down. Like it's an actual mechanism. They learn to shut it down because, I need to get this. So as a result, human need is the most important factor in what somebody's going to do. So if a person needs something, like they need money or they need food, they're going to learn to shut down a desire that goes against that. So my point is that these people, people pleasers, they give off the illusion of success. But in the long term, they fail because they lose who they are. They lose what makes them human. That's what I think.
I can agree with that. I could definitely agree with that because I've seen, since I've worked in the office space, I've had the experience a bit. I've seen the people please, and like you said, like they'll get the job, they'll get the money, but like how far is it really gonna get you? You know what I mean?
They forget who they are.
Yeah.
They lose whatever made them human, whatever made them them.
Mm-hmm.
So is it down to just the ability to say no?
Or the ability to say yes. A lot of people will ignore everything else that maybe they put up the blinders. That's a major flaw with, people that are very driven to do something. Like for me, like I play Xbox and a lot of self-improvement guys will be like, don't play video games. But for me, that's a time where I can think a little bit more freely. I can relax a little bit. I have some time to communicate with friends and just laugh or make a joke and be stupid. And that's fine. And that's what I feel is good for me. So that's my ability to say yes to something that most people would say no to, or even people that are respected that I respect the advice of normally. I know who I am better than they do. I'm not going to accept all their advice. At least, if I feel differently at some point, fine, I'll do differently. Maybe if I see like, okay, I need more time on the podcast, fine, I'll spend more time on it. But as of right now, if I have that time, that hour to play video games, I'll do it. And it's much more worthwhile than me getting so unbelievably stressed and just overworking myself to the point where I don't want to do the podcast. That's the worst thing. That's a travesty.
Absolutely, that is worse. So maybe that's another thing that we all have to work on is
balance.
say, all right, this next 20 minutes.
Deep work. I interviewed, my first interview was with a YouTuber with currently 3.5 million subscribers. He's like the biggest self-improvement YouTuber on YouTube. If you look him up, Improvement Pill. And in that interview, I talked the whole time, and that was like a big mistake I did. But I learned one really valuable thing. I asked him, I'm like, if self-improvement is so important, why is that all the richest men in the world are like the opposite? And he's like, well, to tell you the truth, self-improvement is a solved equation that is supposed to get you towards a certain goal. If you don't have a certain goal, if you don't have a bigger picture goal, there's no point to just endlessly improving your life. And that's the biggest, that's a guy who has built an entire career, made millions of dollars off of nothing but improving the lives of people and preaching about the importance of self-improvement. And that's somebody that's telling me, somebody who has made so much money that he even said he didn't even know what to do with it at one point, and who travels the world for fun. And he's telling me, he's like, look, like, have a goal, have a why, like have a reason why you're doing this. Don't just endlessly try to improve your life, and endlessly just try and be and just try to get these random achievements. Like, no. Do something you want to do.
So what's your goal coming up?
What's my goal? So I would just love to do the podcast. If I had infinite money, no money's no object, I would have the podcast. I would invite, Mark Cuban and, all these, like, I would just invite these guys, whoever I want, have a booking guy. I would have a switch. I would have everybody set everything up for me. I would wake up, probably work out a little bit, work out with my friends. I would also probably move down to like a warm area. I would fly all these guys out, and I would be in there all day. And then, I'd probably go for a walk, probably like swim at the beach. Like that's my point. Like, just freedom. Just like, okay, I do the podcast. I don't need 20 million houses. I don't need the $20 million big house. I need a $5 million house. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need like a house that I want to live in. I don't need, how many rooms can I possibly use?
Valid point.
How many rooms can I possibly use?
I mean, it depends. If you're like me, I'm moving in my whole family in a $5 million house. Like, I've always
Well, if that's the person you are, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's what you want. But I don't need my whole family.
Yeah.
Like, I need the people that I care about. For me.
For sure. And for you, Cam, what's your goals coming up? Now we've talked a little bit about how you're invested in crypto. We've talked a little bit about your marketing and social media. What do you want to switch up on? Like, do you want to switch up? Do you want to continue?
I said last time, I said 5 years at SV Roadster. I think it's a $500,000 Aventador, but I think with the future, I think we're all realizing that money's not everything. So like you said, we do want things that cost huge amounts of money, and that's a normal thing. I don't want people to try and take that away. To drive that car, to have the shoes, not get that done, but I think you're right. We're all on the right path to actually leaving this world as a better place than how we found it. I think that's something money can't buy. Of course, we need to worry about ourselves to get the finances, to get the health. But after we get there, we're pretty much taken care of, and I do think it's about helping other people. After you get those first few things, what else do you need to buy? We need to make the world a better place. But yeah, that SV Roadster, obviously we need to look at some chains, some suits, some cars. But after that, I think we're all agreeing that we see the state of the world, and that we can actually do something, because we said it is down to us. And maybe we view the world right now a little off, because we've all three of us have agreed we're not doing everything that we can do. So maybe within the next, we said we have to break down into 1 month, 6 month, 1 year, 5 year. maybe each of these we are doing something to just solely help someone else, not ourselves. Because we are all selfish, and that is a good thing. You know, accumulating and building a career, you must be selfish. To build this studio, you have to be selfish in one spot, but that yin and yang, to be able to listen to what someone's saying and brush that aside, but to also then go and help this person, to then do this for yourself and be like, all right, let me worry about this for a minute. And keeping a level head, because I think all three of us and anyone else in any sort of owning their own business, you're getting emotional for no reason, and you're making decisions that negatively impact you when you're in that state of mind. So I think you're right. Try and zen it down a little bit, but the next few years, yeah, getting ourselves comfortable, but then to also come back immediately and start helping other people, because that has to be the goal. Because we've gone back and forth about how we could fix this, and we've just explained it to ourselves. To do something, right, and start with ourselves, and then immediately go and help someone else.
And I like that, how the key you keep emphasizing, like, second you help yourself and you realize, all right, I'm in a position I could help somebody else, you gotta go help somebody else, because
it's the only thing that makes sense to me anymore. Nothing is real. Like, I'm making out with a girl, and I'm looking at the clouds. I'm like, before you leave, I'm gonna convince you that is not even real. So nothing even makes sense.
As one does.
The soul is all you have, and if you sell that shit, it's gone.
Right.
And once you have that money, you're gonna be like, damn, I want that back, but it's gone. So from the very beginning, to build everything and just say, damn, yes, this is about me right now, but I want to make this about everyone else, because it is our community, and it is gonna start with our town.
I get that. You want to say anything, Si?
No, so I was just gonna say for time.
Yeah,
Because-
we're about to cut it off
of course.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we could end it off right there. That's pretty.
Yeah,
good.
that was perfect.
You want to end it off right there?
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
This was awesome.
All right, yeah, we gotta talk after the show. Thank you for everybody for watching. Go subscribe to Steve's channel. Go follow him at 444plug. I don't know what his YouTube channel name is, but it was good having you all on. Talking to you all. I don't know why I'm saying like it's my show. It's his.
I mean,
but
this guy might as well be running it. I mean, this kid, go follow George's podcast channel as well.
and Instagram. Don't
And
forget my
Instagram, and plug it all in. This
Yeah.
kid's doing amazing things. I mean, you guys, if you're his age, if you're older, if you're younger, take notes, because
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I believe in him. I mean, when you see people like this, when they just have a drive, you kind of like get motivated by them and you gear closer to them. It's almost like that gravitational pull, you know what I mean? When you want to be successful and you're actively going out and looking for it, and you find other hungry people, it's almost like gravity pulls you towards them. It's like, it's time to eat, guys. We're all hungry. How are we going to go eat? Let's go hunt, you know? It's time to go get them. But thanks for your time. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it.
All right,
Awesome.
we're out.
Dude, that was sick.
That was good.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was